All right, it's been a long time coming. The fellas are here, and this is a segment in the podcast where I'm talking to my dogs. And for a long time, we've been thinking about getting together to speak about a lot of stuff. And I think it's important for us to shed light on our friendship, how we became friends, and how our friendship has evolved and what we've learned from each other in a short amount of time. And it's interesting because we're all very much the same, but we're all very different at the same time. And it's cool to see, and it's weird to think how close we've gotten. Well, I guess I would say I'm an addition to y'all's group. So let's just start there. I think it's important to kind of share where we are from and the similarities that we all have. So I am obviously a Black male. I'm married. I have 3 kids, and I played football. I played D1, and I went to the league. And yeah, I guess those are kind of my things those are the things that we have in common. So I guess y'all can kind of go with y'all's things like relationship, kids, sports, and I guess we ain't all got to say we Black, bro. We're all clearly Black as hell.
I'm Ricardo. I'm in a relationship, but I'm not married or engaged. So I look like crap out here compared to y'all. And everybody's getting married now and engaged. So I feel the pressure, but I'm in a relationship. I'm happy. I play football, D3, St. Olaf.
Holy man, put some respect on our name. What you talking about?
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. You know, I identify as a Black man, and that's
What?
He in pronouns.
What did you just say?
I said I identify as a Black man.
Aren't you like fully Black?
Not technically. None of us are fully Black because of slavery.
Let's not go down that line. Is your dad Black?
My dad's Black. My mom's half Black, half white. And I'm pretty light skinned. I also get, because my name's Ricardo, I also get like all different types. Like people ask me, am I Dominican? Am I this, that, and the other? And then it's funny because like when Latinx people see me and they see my name written down, they'll be like, oh, like Ricardo, and they'll roll their R's and be like, I'm Crew. And then I'm like, oh man.
I for sure thought you was like Mexican or something because of your name. So I get that. But
right.
Okay, the identify as Black, like, do you feel like that's like a necessary thing for you to say?
I thought we were going around saying that for everybody.
But I'm just saying I'm Black.
I feel like it is for, so I mean, like when we're hanging out, we wouldn't say that. But
right.
in the professional world, that's for sure some people say.
Really?
Kind of like I identify as Black, like my pronouns are he, him. That's kind of in the same kind of group of like.
I never knew that.
Well, I guess for me too, it's
yourself.
Like I don't identify as mixed, even though like my mom's half Black, half white. I identify just as Black. Like it's not that, you know, it's not like it's any secret or anything like that, but I don't.
So it's not. Yeah, I guess when I heard it's like you're kind of saying something that we all know, but I guess you having a half white mom, do you feel like that's something that you need to say?
Not really, especially like we talked about this. I'm not taking my hat off today, but I have like distinct Black features. So I think people can generally look at me and see that I'm Black. Mm-hmm. But as far as like introducing myself, especially in like where we're like maybe in a diversity group or we're, you know, whatever, we're talking about that, I do say that I identify as a Black man.
That's interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And it's also different being from Minnesota. You know, like you're in these environments a lot. And I think that conversation comes up a lot. And so it's just something that I've always said. But my parents always have pressed on me.
Your parents have told you to say that?
Yeah. I mean, it was so like I have a half sister and her mom is white and we have the same dad. And so she's much more light skinned than I am. And she only identifies as Black. And that was something that like my parents did not play about. Like we're Black kids, even though at some point because of slavery or whatever, there may be some type of, you know, other race mixed in. Like when we look at ourselves and the world looks at us, we're Black. And so that's just kind of been ingrained in me by both my parents pretty much my whole life.
Oh, wow. I never knew that. That's fascinating. Sorry, I kind of like, we just went on a whole tangent there.
Anyways.
Who are you, Kosey?
St. Olaf College.
My name's Kosey. Went to St. Olaf College, originally from Eugene, Oregon. Go Ducks. Excuse me.
What? Say that, bro.
It's part of my identity, bro. I've had like 4 jobs since college, and at each one, they're like, introduce yourself, and I always say I'm from Oregon. I'm like a huge Duck fan. It's just at this point, it's just a part of my identity. So go Ducks, fuck the Gophers. Came to Minnesota, went to St. Olaf College and played football with Ricardo, where we originally met, and then met Seth through coaching high school football. So
yeah, and I think that's a good place to start. So we all met. So I coached for 2 years, and the first year I coached, it was Kosey's first year coaching as well. Me and Kosey met, went to the second year, and then Ricardo came in, and then that's where y'all met, and then we built this friendship over a little bit over, or coming up on a year now, like we're all 3 of us.
Close.
yeah.
And what's been fascinating is being able to open up about things. I'll speak from my perspective of open up about things that I haven't done with other people in my adult life, because as a kid, being from a place where it's a cultural difference, but it's blacks and browns being Mexican, I never saw white people, so I never dealt with like an identity thing. It was all about like survival, territory, and sports to a large degree. And when I came to college, Minnesota was white, but I never had those internal, like, I gotta watch who I'm around because I didn't experience anything from white people. And then as I got older, and then my first I'm black was when the George Floyd thing happened. And then that's when I got checked into therapy and all this stuff, and I started to recognize my blackness. And then I didn't really have other black friends in my adult life, because when I was done playing football, all of my friendships were gone because I didn't have a locker room no more. So when I met y'all, that's when I started to, I almost identify as black, but almost like recognize, but on the real, like I recognize myself as a black man, and I feel like I'm figuring out what that means for me. And I think that's one thing that's made me really connected to y'all, is being able to explore that, and I think be seen. And a lot of it for me is to recognize that I need to be seen by other black males. I didn't understand that. Pause. I needed to, I gotta just say it, bro. Sorry. Talking through you guys made me realize it's important for me to explore these things. Because it makes me, to a large degree, have an identity and who I am outside of, husband, father, son. It's like my actual DNA and what that means, and how other people see that thing. So yeah, it's been great. And I think just continuing, just showing like what that's like in our friendship, and just letting people see that. What has it been like and it's interesting because y'all have been friends before I came into the picture. What was that like for you guys? Like what I just explained, and also what just being friends what's it been like?
I say,
Especially for you being from Oregon and then you being from here. Like what cultivated y'all friendship outside of football? Because a lot of times when you leave football, a lot of those people leave, but y'all stuck with each other, but y'all went to, y'all in Minnesota. So what has it been like for y'all's friendship and finding each other, and what that's meant for you guys before I came into the picture?
That's a good question. I feel like, when we were in school, we gravitated towards each other. There's not a lot of black people at St. Olaf.
You didn't like me at first.
That's cap. That's actually
no
super cap. No one did like Ricardo at first.
Nobody liked me at first.
Ricardo came in. He came in.
I didn't
we were
come
like
in crazy, bro. They were
2
lying on my
weeks.
name.
I think we were past camp. So I remember just growing up in Eugene specifically, there's not a lot of black people. So anytime we got black people that would transfer or come to my school, it was always like, we gonna be homies.
Yeah.
Which, for better or worse, wasn't always the best thing growing up. But, ended up with Ricardo, like we ended up being locked in, really quickly.
Yeah.
The thing about not getting the starting job handed to him, so the first game before he was on the team, we dogged Grinnell. We beat him like 70-0. And the quarterback played really good. And then the second game we played Luther, who's a rival of ours, and we lost. And that was the first week Ricardo practiced, and that So this is probably the second week here on the team. Week 3, we went through camp. Ricardo's practiced for 2 weeks. He's already getting some like QB1 reps. Which I mean, I didn't care because me and Ricardo were cool, and the dude he replaced was super cool too. Like he was a great leader. I thought he handled it really well. But I mean, he wasn't better than Ricardo, and that was kind of, you could see that fairly quickly.
Especially after a loss, right, to your rivals.
Well, the thing that really was tough for the loss was he actually had played really good. At that time, we were on a losing streak to them. We had probably had like a 6 or 7 game losing streak to them. And bro actually played really, really good. He balled. We went to double overtime, but we ended the game. He threw a terrible interception, and it just, people were pissed. People were upset, and I don't know if he lost confidence after that or what, but it opened the door just a little bit for Ricardo, and he stuck his whole foot in there. And then from there, Ricardo basically took the job over from there. And our friendship grew, and his relationship with the team. Ricardo ended up being, if you look at St. Olo's website, we graduated 6 years ago. Ricardo's still on our website. Like, it's doing videos, like his story is up there. Ricardo became an ambassador for the team. But when he came in, the whole situation around it and how it was handled was just handled differently. Not something you see usually.
Yeah. And I would say that my friendship with Kosey really grew. We were boys, obviously, in college. Because I'm from Minnesota, I also like gravitate to like my groups of Black people. And like the high school that I went to is pretty much like demographically the same as St. Olaf. So a lot of the Black people who are on campus are athletes. There's not a lot of us, but like we had the same table that we sat at lunch together every single day. And we just kicked it. And so I've had a lot of experience kind of navigating these areas. And pretty much immediately when I met Kosey, I could tell he was good people and that we were going to be, friends for a long time. Really, I would say we started to become better and better friends after we graduated, which is unique, I think.
Yeah,
in a lot of
100%.
places.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of times you're friends with people in college because of convenience.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like our dorm is the same place. We eat in the same place, especially at St. Olaf, because it's like there's one cafeteria for however many thousands of people who go to school there. So everybody is eating that pretty much at the same. And then we're athletes too. So our schedules are similar.
Yeah.
And, we're going to go to treatment. We're going to do all that stuff together. So, but when we graduated, the one thing that I would say about Kosey that I think is better than any friendship that I have is he's going to reach out and check in on you. So I graduated and then I went to law school, and the first year in law school, man, it's hell. You're going through it. I was like an econ major. So my homework by the end of my senior year was like all math stuff. I wasn't like reading, but all law school is like reading stuff. So I'm like really having a hard time going through it. And Kosey would hit me up and say, hey, like, let's go out to dinner. Let's do this, that, and the other. And there'll be times where I'm so underwater that like even responding to people via text is overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, I have to be just away from everybody. And then, and some people you can take that in different ways. Some people take that as like, you're saying like, oh, I don't want to hang out with you. I'm not going to text you again until you hit me up. Kosey will follow up his text and be like, nah, like we're going out. Like, when are we going out? Like, let's get together. And I think that was one of the things that I realized really quickly about Kosey and about our friendship was that, if I didn't respond or if he didn't respond, we're not taking that personally. And we have no problem following that message up saying, let's kick it. No, like let's actually get together. Because people, we get busy, you have relationships, you have family stuff going on, work stuff, school stuff, just life is busy. And then like you said, that was right at the height of George Floyd's murder and the civil unrest that was going on literally in our backyards. So it was an even more difficult time to get out and get around people. But I was really able to connect with Kosey because we were locked in on that stuff. And we go to dinners and, we had that, we spent a summer together training when he was in town. And that I think was probably like the jump off point.
Yeah.
If you could see, you could work summer. Because we didn't play D1, so we were out there. we were jumping fences. We were doing everything.
He showed me that video of you jumping
Oh.
that fence.
That was actually a huge part of like our relationship growing though, because that the summer after Ricardo had joined the team, so going into our junior year, I stayed in Minnesota for the summer, which was my first time living here, which is now home for me going on 8 years. But that first summer was tough. Like I was doing an internship in Minneapolis. I didn't know anything really about the Twin Cities. Uh, and like Ricardo said, him and I would work, at least my schedule I know was like 4 to 5, 7 to 5 roughly. And I knew every day Ricardo would pull up on me and we would go work out together for like an hour or two. We would spend a lot of time at his mom's house, his dad's house. Um, and so that was like a big part of our relationship. Like we just grew so close that summer because we were with together. First of all, we were dog tired. We rarely wanted to meet up, but we would get together. We'd do crazy workouts, and then his family welcomed me into his home. That was a big stepping stone, I think, into our relationship, which made after graduation so much easier because we felt more like brothers than just teammates and friends.
Yeah, so this is my first time hearing this story, so brings me insight to like before I came in. And one thing that y'all said that I think is really important to talk about is the difference between transactional friendships versus actionable, like taking action to actually build a friendship. And what's fascinating to listen to, like from a bird's eye view, is it seems like the external things is what made you guys attracted to each other, but it was the effort in which you guys saw each other and who you were is what made you close. And I think, there's a lot of data out there about how men are lonely now. And I think that I used to always think that I never felt lonely. And I think lonely can look different. It can look different in a lot of ways. Like when I met you guys, I realized that I was lonely in my Blackness now that I'm being aware of who I am and how others see me. And it's only for so long that I can go, I don't give a damn. At some point, it started to affect me because I started to feel lonely because now I'm having identity issues because now I know that I'm identified by others, which is a complicated thing to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So when you guys talk about, so bringing that up, and now I'm thinking about transaction versus actionable friendships. What made y'all be able to be like, I don't care if I'm tired, I'm about to reach out? Like, was it more of you guys' similarities in being Black and being playing football together, or was there more to it?
I think football was the thing. So Kosey played running back, I played quarterback. So we were.
You guys have a special relationship already for those because of those positions.
Exactly. Like when you stand in the backfield with somebody, and Kosey, I always enjoyed playing with Kosey because he was a quarterback in high school. So he saw the game. And I remember our junior year, I always think about this play. I would have got murdered because there was a backside blitz that was coming. It wasn't Kosey's responsibility to go get that blocker, but he called it. And literally as the ball snapped, he called it like, hey. And I looked out and the dude is like coming to end my life. And the play was going this way. So, and it was quick game, but he's already, our offensive line was tough. He was already ready to kill me. And I just kind of like faded away and just tossed it over his head, and Kosey caught it, crossed somebody up and got a first down. And so just like having that extra set of eyes and being in the backfield with somebody, I think makes you close. Just like Kosey said, when we were, it's different. Anybody who knows, and I think I would know I've talked to you about like your training and stuff like that when you're back home. So I know that you get it, but like we're in college and we're going to like my high school to train. We're going to any open place that we can find. We're just trying to jump fences. And there's a video that we don't need to talk about, but I'm not a fence jumper. I was shaking on top of
but you got to send it to me so we can put it on the video, dog.
I was so scared up on that fence, man. I was seeing my life flash before me. I was seeing my dad's life flash before me. Everybody's life just flashing before me. But we just like that whole summer, we both had internships and we're working all day. Then I'm like, I know that I'm going to hold Kosey accountable. And I know Kosey's going to hold me accountable because there are both times where we were like, bro, I'm tired. I'm not trying to do this. especially because it's not in front of us. You know, if we were living
Yeah.
on campus and all we had to do is walk down to our
Mhm.
training facilities, it'd be one thing. But on top of the fact that we have to, you know, find a way to get together and then find a place to even train, there was no convenience. It was everything was tough about it.
Mhm.
But when you get to experience that with another person, I think that builds just like a bond and a relationship that, like, man, we really went through this shit, like trying to figure everything out, and we got so much better.
Mhm.
You know, looking at us before the summer and looking at us by the end of it. I mean, I wish I was like that like right now that
Facts.
what we did.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, that was what really I think built that bond.
Yeah, I think, and I agree with that. That built that bond, which what made once we got out of school so much easier because I knew there was never any question of Ricardo and I's friendship continuing. Like once I knew I was staying in Minnesota, I knew Ricardo was one of like my inner friends, and so and also I knew once he went to law school, you know, him expressing like how busy he was. I mean, obviously the first time he didn't text back, I'm like, damn, like what's going on, with Ricardo? And all it took was, I mean, simple communication. We got together that first time, and he was like, I'm fucking swamped, which
Mhm.
made it easy. Like, all right, bet I got you. I'll just keep tapping in with you, and we'll keep making it happen. And you know, that relationship just continued to grow.
Mhm. So when you guys think about, like, did you know that at the time that you guys are grinding and you're building something, or do you think through just doing it you realize I think I have somebody real who has my back or who I just can count on? Because I'm wondering if it's not your blackness in the sport, once you're like what is it? You know what I'm saying? Like, because I think when I'm thinking about men being lonely and we strip back color and whatever, there seems to be something else outside of the external things that we all identify what a friend should be. So when I was playing football and I got done, I realized it was convenience. That's all it ever was. And I realized I really didn't have much in common with these guys from a moral standpoint, from I would say most of the time it's morals. It's like morals. So what was it outside of that? Like, have you guys ever thought about that or recognized what it was?
I think our blackness attracted us to each other. Specifically, like at St. Olaf, I talk about so like our I don't think Ricardo was on the team by this time. So my sophomore year, right before Ricardo joined the team, we took a picture. It was all the black athletes on the team, and there was 7 of us plus a coach that took the picture with us, and we did it. We posted it. We put hashtag strength and numbers, and that's actually turned into a tradition at St. Olaf now, which is super dope. Shout out to Coach Killian for making that effort to make sure they get more minorities. There's over 30 or 40 guys in that
It's a
picture
lot.
now.
Yeah.
But at the time, you know, there's only 7 of us on the team. So Ricardo showed up. I instantly was like, I'm gonna say what's up to bro and see what's going on. Uh, from there, though, I mean, I don't think race was the only reason we were hanging out. It was what attracted us to each other, but our relationship grew organically by, you know, the kind of people we are, and
Yeah.
then obviously that summer I think is a big like I don't know like just a pillar of our friendship because we saw each other so much more than just athletes after that. Like I said, I was at his parents' house pretty much every day. You know what I mean? Like I remember particularly Ricardo and his dad had an argument in front of me. And you know, when you argue with your parents, especially I think Ricardo and I are very similar because if you see Ricardo's dad, like they're spitting images of each other. And when you see my dad, I'm a spitting image of my dad. We're just the same exact person. You're a junior, so you know exactly how that
Mhm.
is.
Mhm.
Like when you have that kind of argument with your parent, and especially at that time of your life when you're in college, you know, trying to become a man and figure out who you are, like that's a very vulnerable place to be. And so like I just remember like after that happened, it was like I just remember like the way we sat in the car because we his dad made us drive from Minneapolis to St. Paul back to Minneapolis
And one and
after we just worked out and we
Mm.
had also we showed up we had worked out for like 2 hours and his dad like hey my dad needs us to come help like move a couch or something moved the couch down like 3 flights of stairs and then that's when his dad was like you guys gotta drive it to St. Paul and then back and we were like it's like 8 o'clock we haven't ate dinner yet and so they had that argument. I remember we got in the car and it was like, I don't even remember if we really said anything, but it's just like going through that experience, you know,
Yeah.
like together. And there's just so many different experiences and situations that happened that summer that we grew just so much closer together. And like I said, it just felt more like by that time we were more just brothers,
Yeah.
and you never really notice when that's happening. It just happens
Yeah.
organically,
Yeah.
but just like bringing those things up, like that was
Yeah.
how our
And
relationship grew.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Because I think I felt that loneliness. I think I've probably in some way or another always felt that loneliness.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, I went to predominantly white elementary school, middle school, high school, college, law school, like every environment I pretty much in, except for when I was out at the JUCO in Cali. I was one of a few, you know, but I think when you're in it, you're some ways doing like a survival mode where
Mhm.
I don't acknowledge it, or I'm at least in some ways not mature enough to understand what that feeling is. Because I think sometimes if you dive in too deep, you let it consume you, and then you just, you know, you can't make it through because you start to evaluate like, holy shit, I am alone out here.
Yeah.
So when Kosey and I started becoming friends, and when we've been friends, you know, post college, I think a lot of times I think it does make sense to connect because we're black, because we have a similar experience. Because Kosey and I, you know, being from Eugene and me being from St. Paul, is very similar, and kind of understand that. But that's not something that I think I had the emotional intelligence to
Yeah.
understand I was doing until, you know, I've started to go to therapy. I've started to be able to, you know, look back reflectively on my life and like
Yeah.
really pinpoint like, oh, I wasn't just like pissed randomly that day. I just went through the whole day where I saw nobody who looked like me. I
Mm.
got to interact with not a single person who has a similar experience as
Mhm.
me. I had to debate, you know, race relations with people who, you know, call me retardo behind my back, or, you know, may say the N word in songs when I'm not around, and this, that, and
Mm.
the other. And that, you know, that realization in itself, I think, is exhausting. But I think a big reason why I've gravitated to our crew is because I feel like I can be like my authentic
Yeah.
self around
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I think Kosi and I have talked a lot right now about our friendship, but it's funny when I first you know, you two have obviously known each other longer than I have, but I knew Sed was cool people when Kosi was on his little hiatus from coaching at the beginning of the season.
What? Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, bro. We had to come through for you, dog. Oh, Kosey was ready to quit.
He was
dog.
out of there.
Yeah,
He was so
yeah,
mad. But
yeah.
I remember showing up to practice, and this was pretty much gonna be my first time interacting with you without Kosi there. Which, you know, you have friends, but then a lot of times you have that buffer friend.
Mhm.
So like you've been friends with Kosi for, you know, a little over a year. I've been friends with Kosi for, you know, 5-6 years at that point. So like we kind of had our crew, and I felt comfortable kicking it with the three of us. But I just remember coming up to practice and then coming up to you, and then both of us being like, man, I talked to Kosi today, man. He's pissed. I just kind of knew at that point, like us reflecting on that, like that you're somebody who I knew I would get along with.
Mhm.
And then I think that as we started to like hang out, I think whatever restaurant Revival, I think
Mhm.
we went where we had like a deeper conversation.
Yeah.
And we're able to like kind of talk about where we're from and hear different experiences. It was something that kind of clicked to me. Like,
Mhm.
this is not just a friendship that I'm around because of football, or because he's black, or because we just, you know, need a third musketeer in the crew. It's because I'm like genuinely fascinated with his background. And I
Yeah.
feel like he provides so many like prompts, and he has such an inquisitive mind that gets me talking about things.
Mhm.
Because like my everyday work life, I will either close my office door and I'm in there grinding for hours, or
Because you're a lawyer.
because yeah. So I'm a lawyer, or I'm sitting there working with people who are either 10 plus years older than me. I'm the only black lawyer in my entire office. We have over 750 attorneys across the country, and there's not that many of us,
Mhm.
which is somewhat reflective of our legal community here in the Twin Cities. So it's not necessarily my firm's fault, but there's no diversity,
Yeah.
or there's very little diversity. So being able to have you come into our crew and really bring a different level of challenging, like, or at least trying to understand where we come from and how we think about these situations, I think has led to like some really great conversations.
Yeah, for
to
sure.
me.
Yeah.
Especially because, like I said, like, outside of Kosey, like I have a lot of other white friends that I just don't, I love them, but I don't have these types of conversations with.
Yeah.
Because I kind of like, well, how you can't relate to being the
Yeah.
only black person in the space.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think it's funny you brought up the revival story because like that's when I would say that's when I felt like I really came into the picture. And you remember before that even happened, y'all kept trying to tell me, let's go eat. And like I just didn't. I was like, I got kids or whatever. But to be honest with
always
you,
the excuse.
yeah, but to be honest with you, at that time, I was like kind of nervous to do it because I've never put the work in to like build a friend or build friends. Even before, like me and Kosey, like we never went to go kick it before that day. Me and Kosey just were coaches together and we laughed at each other and laughed at Dre like on the sideline. But that was it. But this is so through these couple of years, I was exploring like who I was as a black man with mixed kids, being from LA, being in Minnesota, et cetera, et cetera. And then that year that I was coaching when you came, I had a little more emotional intelligence and awareness of, who my people were from a outside looking in. So yeah, I remember that day when we talked and we were just like laughing about coaches. I was like, yeah, he's super cool. And then I just remember y'all was like, let's go eat. And I'm just like, fuck. All right, fuck it. I'm gonna do it. Because I just knew, okay, now I gotta go and like talk and like I gotta like whatever. But then it kind of just organically happened because I think I felt safe and I didn't know that was gonna happen. I thought that I was gonna have to go there and like talk about stuff that I didn't want to talk about or explain who I was and where I was from and why. Y'all didn't talk about nothing like that. We were just talking. And I left that day. I was like, damn, that was weird as hell. Like that was weird. Like, is this what it feels like to not perform? But that was my first time experiencing that.
Put that. It's a great way to put that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't have to perform at all. And then I'm like, I want to do this more.
Yeah.
Like I want to do this more. I've never experienced that before. Because again, when you're in a locker room, you're performing. We're all like alpha males. We all are like tough. You're my friend, but I'm trying to take your spot. So you're really my enemy. So our minds are conditioned that way. When I met with y'all that day, that was my first time not performing. And I was like, damn, like that was cool. I would do that more with them. Mm-hmm. It was very important with them. So is it the blackness? Yes, it is. And I don't feel guilty about saying that.
Nor should you.
But I used to, right? Like I used to. I remember one time I was doing, don't start cracking jokes, bro. I was doing a brand deal. I was working with Pampers, bro, okay? And I went back to Cincinnati.
Adult Pampers?
Yeah, I got a plug for that. That's what I do for wearing.
You thought that too?
No, I'm just clouded.
Bro, you want to hear something real quick? You want to hear something crazy? I almost went to go buy Pampers when I took the bar because when I get nervous, I can't stop going to the bathroom. And it is such a time cramp that I almost got Pampers and people do that so that I could just let it go. And then
bro, your job is too stressful. Bro. Relax. RELAX, bro. That is crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
I didn't end up good, but my bad.
No, you're good.
I did it. I've never worn adult Pampers, I swear. Go ahead.
The fact that you shared that, I kind of feel like you did wear one, bro. It's fine.
Bro, I really thought about it. I was in Target, bro, with the Pampers in my hand. I said, I can't do it.
So these were in the women's section.
That's got to be a coming to Jesus moment. No, they sell adult Pampers.
Bro, they have adult Pampers for men.
I've never seen it in my life.
Sure.
I swear to. Anyways, back to the story.
Anyway, sorry,
so no, it's fine. So I'm in Cincinnati, and like there's like some other black dads, but everybody's mostly white. And I remember sitting at this table with like all these black creators, my dads and moms, and I was like, yo, we got to spread out. Like we're all sitting at this one table, and like everybody else is together. And I remember one of the dads looking at me like why? I'm like, this is just uncomfortable. It feels like we're all ganging up together to show that like we're together. You know what I'm saying? So the system is working. Like it's working on me. You know what I'm saying? So when I went with you guys, I was like, yeah, I want to do that again with them. And I'm going to keep doing that with them because I feel blank, blank, and blank. I didn't know what it was, but I liked how it felt. You know what I'm saying? So I think that when it comes to men being lonely, I think that the external is what kind of attracts you to that person, right? Like it does. But I think knowing who they are ultimately, and this is just an assumption, I don't really even know this, ultimately is what brings that friendship that, I don't even have to call him my friend. We just know it. And I think that's a really beautiful thing to get to, but I think it's complex. And I think it takes, from my perspective, it takes faith. And to me, faith simply just means action, right? Like it's a verb. It just takes action. So if I didn't have the faith to go, fuck it, I'm going to just go and like whatever. Like we wouldn't be here now. We wouldn't be going to the casino and joking around. We wouldn't be having these deep conversations that like you guys bring things out of me that I never knew were there. Now, is that because we look like each other? Yeah. But that's just a part of it. And I think I shouldn't be ashamed of that. You know what I'm saying? Like even just talking about it now, it makes me feel uncomfortable because now I feel like I'm identifying myself as something. And is that the right thing to do? Yeah, I don't know.
So how did you handle, I've heard you talk about this before, and you mentioned a little earlier that really when George Floyd was murdered, that was when you kind of started to have like a fuller view of what it means to be a Black man. How did you handle that loneliness and kind of that um, awakening or whatever you want to call it from that point until we've really been able to have like these types of conversations? Because I'll say for me, being able to engage with other Black people about what it is to be Black is some of the most meaningful conversations.
Yeah, but I didn't know that. And I think like my therapist says like I operate like a lone wolf. Because that's just my personality. So I think I can handle a lot on my own, and I can to a certain degree, and I'm learning that I don't have to. I think that's what's most important. But, the thing about George Floyd is that people were telling me how I was supposed to feel. And that's what was scary because I didn't feel nothing. And when people were telling me how to feel, and then you see the videos, and then there's COVID, I have mixed kids. People are telling me, Dr. Umar coming out of nowhere saying you got to be with a Black person. So I'm just like, oh, wait. So I'm supposed to be feeling something. And if I don't know how to feel, it's easy to identify those feelings with people who look like you or tell you how you're supposed to feel and what you're supposed to do. So I suppressed it. And with that came this internal anger at anyone. So I didn't have any community of people who look like me. I just had myself. But the thing about being a lone wolf is I'm going to do the work. So I would write and read. And this is when I started questioning my faith and stuff and started looking at other religions. And I found myself internally to like love who I am, but it still wasn't like as a Black person yet. It was as a human. You know what I'm saying? And then when I met y'all, I swear to God, I think that was like kind of the first time because I suppressed all of it. And then when I left that day, whatever my subconscious mind needed, I got that day. And I didn't care what I want to do that again because of blank, blank, and blank. It just felt good. And whatever blank, blank, blank is, I'll figure that out later. And I think that's what y'all were saying with summer and grinding. And I think what's really important is, that conversation, that argument that you saw with Ricardo and his dad, that's what that was. Because you probably would have shut that down if it was a white kid or if it was somebody you weren't
my dad would have
to.
never talked to me. I think what happened was he told us we had to go back across the city, and I want to say I love my dad. He's gonna watch this. We have a great relationship, and I'm the third, so I'm named after him. So we're super close. But he told us after we had to go back across the city, and I just said that's tough.
That was crazy. Mr. Johnson, I respect. He didn't even say nothing crazy. He was like, damn.
That's tough. But the same thing would happen because there's been a couple of times where I was a pretty good kid, but I was cussed out a couple of times in high school only around my Black friends because it's that sense of community where my dad knows that we're a different type of brothers than it would be if it was like me and, Jimmy or whatever, whoever it is. And he wouldn't have, but because Kosey and I are brothers and because, we have that similar experience. And like you said, Kosey is the same way with his dad than I am with my dad. There is just like a sense that like we're family and you can get cussed out in front of your family. So I think exactly to your point, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I don't even know, like you can't plan for those moments.
Right.
And I think stepping out on like the faith aspect of it is what's most important. But it's also important not to deny what you look like and who you are. And that's what I'm learning being with y'all and like talking to y'all about, damn, I didn't know I felt this way. And y'all helping me. Like when y'all like even talked about being called the N-word for this first time. Like, remember, I was like, y'all heard that as kids? I ain't never heard that. Nobody ever called me that as a kid. And just y'all explaining y'all experience and how real it is, it makes me realize that that probably was happening to me at some point. And also what I read in school is more real because you guys actually really lived that experience of racism based on how you looked. Whereas me, it was racism on territory and gang related stuff. So I think when it comes to like men being lonely, because I kind of feel like that's where this is going, is, I mean, what would you say to that? Like, well, actually, this is a good place to talk about that. No. So when you say to like men being lonely, where do you think that, or what's the root of that?
Pride.
Hmm.
I say that just because I feel like sometimes I'm lonely. Like, just in the sense of like, I'll be at the house, I'll be like, just bored, you know what I mean? I want to do something. But like you don't like I just don't like who am I gonna hit up today? And it's not that I don't have friends and it's not that I don't have people I could hit up, but it's like, I don't know if I want to bother them today or like they probably like it's different kinds of friends. Like most of my friends now all have kids and families, and the only one that doesn't is works a job like 90 hours a week. So it's like you can't just hit up people and be like, hey, like let's drop anything and go do it. Right now, my life is really, really flexible because I have a fiance and a dog and a cat. Like I don't really have responsibilities outside of my work. So I feel like I'm free all the time, but my friends aren't. And so when I want to do stuff, sometimes I'm like, damn, like I don't really know who to hit up. And I feel like for me, a lot of times that's like pride. So
Mhm.
that's kind of where what I think about.
Sometimes I feel like my loneliness comes from societal expectations that maybe don't even exist. 'Cause I have, like I said, I'm very close to my father. I'm really close with my mother. I have three sisters. I have a girlfriend, and I know that if I picked the phone up and called any single one of them, and also I have great friends. If I picked the phone up and called anybody and said, "Hey, like I'm really struggling, I'm going through this stuff," they'd be there for me to support me. But I don't, and I like when it comes to stress with work and when it comes to maybe my relationships, sometimes I just bear the brunt of all that stuff on myself. And especially as I start to get older and I start to look around and say, like, I want to build something that's going to outlive me, that weight and that stress I take on by myself. And
Mhm.
I talk about it with my therapist, which I think has saved me a lot of stress that gets built up because it just is something that just manifests itself in something else.
Mhm.
And like that weight, that pressure, everything that I have, like you guys said, I have a super demanding job. It it kind of sometimes crushes me internally, and like I feel like I'm the only one who gets it. I'm the only one, like I
Mhm.
can't tell my dad this because I don't want my dad to worry about me. I can't tell my mom this because I don't want her to think that her son is struggling and she may not be able to help me. I don't want to tell my sisters this because they might not understand. You know what I mean? Like I
Mhm.
make up these lists in my head on why I need to take this one on the chest and handle it by myself.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's necessarily me being a man. I'm sure that there are a lot of women out there that feel the same way, but I can only tell you what my experience as a man. And I think a lot of things in our society, maybe less now that we're getting older. And I think like the world feels like it's telling, young men and young boys and older men too, that it's okay to feel this way. But it's, we're raised by a generation of black people who would experience things, white knuckle it and keep going.
Yeah.
And you trace that back as far as we or as long as we've been on this continent. That's just
Mhm.
how black people approach things.
Yeah.
And we're like I said, I think that like we're part of a generation that is accepting of therapy and accepting that people like it's okay not to be okay. But we're raised by that nonetheless.
Yeah. I wonder if mine is similar to yours and it's just a different definition because I think when it comes to loneliness for me, I always feel like I'm not lonely because I always feel like I don't need nobody.
Hmm.
And I don't know how much that has benefited me because it's gotten to the point where I believe it. I really feel like I don't need nobody, which also means that I can get rid of people really quick.
Where do you think that comes from?
I think the way that I was raised and like I think seeing two broken homes, like I seen my mom and dad get divorced. I seen my high school coach and his wife get divorced and they were two like pretty bad divorces. So there is no trust to me. I think, I think also being like pretty promiscuous as a young boy all the way through college that I can have a girl and like get another girl whenever I wanted. Like I didn't need them. And then, you know, when you're playing football and you realize that your friends are really your enemies when you're on the field and you're trying to get the starting job. So you don't really trust nobody and you don't really need nobody. And the way that I grew up is like you got to stand on your own 2 feet. And you know, I've been jumped before. I've been bullied in middle school by gangs and stuff like that. And you just don't trust nobody. And you got to stand on your own 2 feet. And then, you know, I think also playing running back, you know, I played running back all through high school. I didn't play defense. I played defense when I got to college. You know, once I get the ball, it's up to me. You know what I'm saying? It's just me. Like I gotta score. Like I don't care what the O-line does. So I think just the way that my life is panned out, I don't need nobody. And I can figure it out by myself. And what's interesting is prior to us talking, I was talking to Alex and we were talking about being human and how to be human means you need to be capable of feeling. So I just didn't allow myself to feel, which means I ain't got time for you because I ain't got time for me. So it is what it is. I don't need you. I got me. And I'm not going to listen to myself that I feel lonely because I'm not going to identify with that at all. It's like, I'm not lonely. Like, I'm going to get my ass up, do something. So maybe the people in my life were the tasks and projects, working out, trying a new routine, starting a new diet, getting a new girlfriend, having a kid, whatever. I kept myself doing something that needed, like that task, like that end goal needed to get done. So I don't need nobody. Like there's a job to be done. You know what I'm saying? So I think for me, I never felt lonely because I don't allow myself to feel it. I'm not allowing myself to be human because of my conditioning and then convincing myself and believing it. And that's it. And I think the more that I start to feel, the more I start to get afraid because now I'm actually feeling lonely. I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling sad. And and with all that, I feel needy and I don't like feeling like that. So going back to the revival link, I'm potentially allowing myself to feel needy or like expected to be there. Like, bro, I'm telling you, it was like not comfortable for me to go there. I swear to God, I was like, bro, I gotta walk in here and I gotta like talk a certain way. Like, but I didn't feel that way once I left. So all that to say, yeah, I don't feel lonely because I don't allow myself to feel lonely. But I'm human and I probably do feel lonely a lot. And that's stuff that I'm realizing now. You know, like bro, even I think the week before last or something. And I like, you know, like when we go to the casino, we always send the Dave Chappelle like crack, crack gift. And I sent it. And those are little experiments of me being like, yo, I wanna hang out. You know what I'm saying? Like that shit is hard for me, bro. It's so hard. But I like how I feel when I'm hanging out with y'all. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just different because we look alike. Like, and that's all right. Like I can say that. Like I can say that now. You know what I'm saying? Because like my relationship with Alex is like blood couldn't make us closer. You know what I'm saying? And I have a strong bond with him, but me and Alex don't look alike. You know what I mean? So there's things that we can't connect on, but what's special about me and his relationship is that now we can like look at our lives as a black male and him as a white male, but our morals are the same. So it's a beautiful relationship in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like when we've talked about well, first of all, now you're like, I know your mom's half white, so like you're white too, right? But you identify as black, and that's fine. But we
Hate this nigga, bro.
I can't say one word around
it's
this.
fine. It's fine. It's fine. Now I got dirt on y'all. So now, like, I didn't know that. I knew Kosey was half white, but you said your grandma was white. That's how I found out you were white. So it's fine. So I forgot where my thought was going.
Exactly, Smokey.
I forgot where my thought was going, bro. But anyways, that's how the loneliness for me is I didn't allow myself to feel it. And now that I'm stepping out and allowing myself to feel, it feels good to know that you're wanted. Like that feels good. Outside of like your partner. You know what I mean? Because I know Charlotte loves me through everything, but I know that y'all love me through everything. Y'all have my back. And that feels good. But it's really difficult to, I think, find it because it organically happens. But the most important thing is to step out and do it. Like when y'all talked about being tired, like that took effort. Like that's hard. Like it's really hard no matter who the other person is. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, you said it, Kosey said it earlier, especially with friendships. I mean, relationships I think are a little different and familial relationship. I meant like romantic relationships and familial relationships are a little different, but when you're building relationship with friends, I think it does take a level of vulnerability to be like, "Hey, what are you guys doing this weekend?" Especially because it's like a lot of times, you know, you have stuff with your kids or, you know, you're hanging out with your fiance or, you know, we're busy. I'm maybe doing something with work or whatever. And I think Kosi said it too. And I go through the same thing where there's a lot of Friday nights where, you know, my partner is busy, you know, my mom's doing something or another, and it's just me. And so I might just go to a movie by myself.
Mm.
And I think some of it's therapeutic because it's nice just to like just to have everything quiet and, you know, spend that alone time, but it's also an escape so that I'm not sitting at the crib by myself, you know, thinking like, well, man, I don't really want to, you know, hit people up and say like, hey, like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm busy. All right. Okay. Sorry. Then, because it's hard not to be like, all right, well, then it's me. You know what I mean? I've asked a gang of people and everybody's got something going on. And now I'm sitting here alone, you know, so I try to escape it. So I think that that's a real thing. And, you know, as you become better friends with people, I think it's easier just to be like, bro, we hanging out tonight or what?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know? And I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what we do really
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Like, you know, whoever it is will send a text to the group chat and say, you know, what are we doing this week? Mostly it's me trying to go to the casino.
Yeah.
My family's getting a little nervous about that. But I be winning, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know. So what would you guys say to I was gonna say anyone, but I want to speak specifically to men because that seems to be like the big thing now. Like, what would you say to men who feel lonely? Like, how do they put themselves out there? And does what the person look like matter? Is what is do you have to have things in common, which was like football for us? And if you don't have those things, like what should you do?
That's a good question. I think the first thing you should do is everybody should just go to therapy because it was hard. Like my girlfriend really is the one who pushed me to go to therapy, and it was a huge contention point for us for a long time. And I was like finding every excuse under the gun to not go. But it has been really helpful just to have an objective third party person where I can just say, hey, you know, give me your thoughts on this because you know, the stuff that I have and the issues that I have that cause me to have loneliness, a lot of times will involve somebody in my life. And so if I have an issue maybe in my relationship and I'm talking, you know, to my partner and we see things differently. So we're not necessarily in a bad way, but we're adversarial in that situation. So I might go to my dad and I might talk to my dad about it, but my dad's got my back like few people in this world have my back. And, you know, he has no problem telling me I'm wrong. But I think when someone has your back, you oftentimes just end up in an echo chamber. So then you're like, oh, well, this person's and it's the same thing. Like I think a lot of people with people's friends, when you're talking about stuff, like you get in these natural echo chambers. So then you think to yourself, well, I'm right, this person's wrong, but I'm alone in agreeing with this because I can't figure it out. So therapy is, I think, a good way to do it. When your other question was, you know, does it matter what the person looks like? And I think it does to the extent that you're trying to get a certain thing out of it. So, like I
Mm,
said, I'm from Minnesota. It would be impossible for me unless I was a recluse to grow up without white friends. That's how
mhm.
white people are. I mean, we're in Minnesota. They don't have to talk about how many white people or what the demographic breakdown is. But grown to really, what I've grown to do and what I've grown to appreciate is that I can still have meaningful friendships with white people. It just is going to be different than our friendship.
Mhm.
I can't
And
go
that's okay to say,
and that's
right? Yeah,
100%
yeah.
okay to say. And
Mhm.
I've had that conversation. So, like, one of my really, really good friends, it's funny because, like, when I got to St. Olaf, I just got put with a random guy, and he's like a soccer player from the north suburbs of Chicago. So, like, on paper, white guy, we're like completely opposite. And like we were having this, I don't when I listen to rap songs and the N word comes up, I don't say the N word around white people. That's just not my thing, and because it just caused a lot of issues that we don't want to get into. So one day I was having a conversation with him, and I was really putting him on to J. Cole because that's he's the GOAT. And
Bro.
I'm rap. Hey, well, that's my story. I had to throw that one in there.
My story. Go ahead, bro.
So
You know Kendrick concert tomorrow too, by the way.
who?
Kendrick's concert is tomorrow.
Bro.
Who?
Stop playing, bro. Mike Jones like
So, we're listening to J. Cole and I'm rapping along because I know every single word. And he starts to pick up on the fact that I don't say the N word in any of these things.
Mm.
And so we end up having a conversation. He's like, I don't want you to feel like you can't say the N word around me.
He said that?
Yeah, because he was trying to be like, I don't want you to be a version of yourself that you don't feel comfortable. And it was a nice, like, authentic say, like, I want you to be yourself. And I had a conversation and I said, hey, yes, I don't say the N word around white people, but that is a version of myself. And I'm comfortable and I'm okay being that person. And then when that's I get a lot out of our relationship because I see you as someone who cares about me. We laugh, we have fun, we'll go out occasionally together. He's a great guy. He knows who I'm talking about. But then I have friendships with like Kosey. Kosey and I are playing spades. I can't stop saying the N word. We're kicking it, and that is also a portion of me.
Mhm.
And I can't, but both of those things are as much of me as the other. One of them, they just offer me different things. So like when you're looking, I think when people are looking for these types of relationships, it is 100%. It's great. It's fine for you and Alex to be cool. I love the fact that you have somebody that, can't be closer if they're blood related. Like that's great. It's just different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like my relationship with my old roommate and my relationship with you guys are both like important relationships and friendships to me. It's stuff that I learn. I take a lot of things from, but I'm not going to grow as a black man
Yeah.
when I hang out solely with white people.
Mhm.
And I think that sometimes can be hard for me being one from Minnesota, working in pretty much an all white environment. So like I really have to seek it out and be intentional and like make sure I continue to do it. Otherwise, like that side of me, I think feels like it starts to diminish a
Yeah.
little bit, which can
Mhm.
be really hard.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think when you first asked that question, it was really hard for me to come up with an answer. And what I kind of landed on while listening to Ricardo was finding ways to be authentic. Because earlier we were talking about, how our relationship grew and became so strong. And I feel like when we're together, we can just be authentic. Like we can say whatever we want, like we're with our family. You know what I mean? It just kind of comes out. But what you say when you're around other people, I'm thinking about my relationships with some of my friends, whether they're white or other kinds of, nationalities. Like, and then even but think like when I'm at work, like I have good work relationships with all different, people of color and white people, but I'm never authentic at work.
Mm.
But then I'm always performing. But then when I'm with my other friends that might not be black, I do have a part of me that's authentic, but it's not like when we're hanging out. This is actually something I probably learned from you, but I stopped trying to say the N word around my white friends because it just makes things weird. Um, but I can still be authentic in things like I have a friend that like all we do is clown and make jokes. He's Asian. Like we just are the goofiest crew when we're together. I have another white homie that like we talk ball like all the time. Like he loves talking football. And we talk about other things, but like we have something that we're truly authentic and we'll say some wild off the wall shit to each other. That's still authentic, but it's not the same wild off the wall shit that we would say to each other. And so however you can do that, probably the easiest way is finding something that you enjoy to yourself. So like I think for my brother, he is single and he lives in a town that we didn't grow up
Your
in.
actual brother?
My actual brother.
Mhm.
And like we have talked about like how he is going to build relationships. And that's the first person I thought of when it's like, and I'm not saying he's lonely or anything, but like he's doing something that I would be scared to do, moving somewhere that I'm not from. I have no connections here. I don't have a partner there with me. He's just there. And like, how does he find things to do? And it's like you got to be authentic. You got to find things that make yourself authentic. Um, so that's kind of where I landed on that.
Yeah, no,
Listening to Ricardo.
yeah, I think those are really good. And to me, it's funny because when I think about authentic, it's like I tell people all the time, I'm the same wherever I go. I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? I am who I am, and that comes with negatives too. But I think when I'm not realizing that I'm being identified as something, I think that I knew about. I think that in my earlier years, that I knew that I was being identified as something, I would have acted a certain way. So but not knowing that I was always authentic and the right people kind of came in my life outside of the locker room. So I agree with the authenticity. And I think from my perspective, finding you guys is like taking a chance, like actually taking a chance. Like if you don't want to do it, you have to actually try. Like I really don't see any difference from like when you're trying to go get a girl and you're putting yourself out there. It's the same thing with friends. Like I didn't want to go to Revival because it was just uncomfortable for me, but I went and something came from it. You know what I'm saying? So it's so funny how the word relationships can be friendship and marriage. They both just take action and effort, and you have to see where it goes. And I think as men, you don't want to do that with other men for whatever reason. I don't know what that reason is. For me, it was, I guess, not putting myself in a position to feel because I don't have time for that. You know what I'm saying? I don't also want to feel like this is going to be a regular thing and now we're going to have to eat all the time. It wasn't a y'all thing. It was a me thing. So just me taking the chance on it, something beautiful came from it. So I think loneliness can be solved. It just takes, from what we're saying, authenticity and I would say faith to a large degree. And those two things are really, really complex and they're really difficult. And I think the more that men can do that, the more relationships that they will have and the more fruitful and quite frankly, happier they will be. Because I am happier now that I have people who I can count on who look like me and they happen to play sports and we can joke around with each other in ways that we can't joke around with other people.
Mhm.
And that's okay. And I keep saying that's okay because I think I'm really saying it to myself because it's new for me. You know what I'm saying? It's new for me. I didn't like the idea of everybody like kind of being different by color and whatever because I didn't grow up like that. God did, but again, it was territory. It was violence. It kind of made sense to me because of the territorial perspective, but simply because we don't look like each other, and you have a different, hair color and all these different things, it just didn't make sense to me. And now that I'm like being accepting of it, it's uncomfortable, and I'm trying to get comfortable with it. So all that to say, I think that loneliness can be solved in an individual's life, and I think we're just saying it takes authenticity, vulnerability, and action. So that's what I got.
Especially action. It's easy just to let it go. Blame other things, blame yourself, blame the world, but it takes a lot of work. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like, and I think something that you said that I agree with is for me, I think, and maybe this is because I grew up with three sisters. It's easier for me to be vulnerable to like my partner or to like a
Mm.
female friend that I have than it is to be vulnerable to like an average male friend.
Why is that?
That's a good question. You said that, and I'm like, man, that's a good. I don't exactly know. I think part of it is I don't want you to look at me like I'm soft, and like I think I have never really been around women who view, being emotionally intelligent and expressing yourself makes you less of a man. but I have been around lots of men that feel that way.
Yeah.
And I make that very clear. And I think you said it.
Yeah.
Playing football is exactly where that stuff originates. You know, I remember my dad doesn't remember this, but I remember when I was like, I was a very emotional kid. I was crying. I cry at everything. But my dad brought me over.
This is why niggas don't talk about
So my dad, you know, I kind of, when I was younger, I grew up in the suburbs. So my dad was like, we got to toughen this kid up. So he brought me over to North Minneapolis for me to start playing football.
Here's some context of what North Minneapolis is.
So suburbs, all white people, very, you know, what you would expect the suburbs to be. North Minneapolis is a predominantly black area. It's not bad by any means, but it is rougher.
It's the hood of Minneapolis. That's
exactly,
what it is.
It's the hood. And so he brought me because he had a friend who coached a team there. He brought me there so that I could start to play. And I was really young. I think I was like second grade, and that was like even younger than the other kids. The other kids were like third or fourth graders. So we're leaving the car, and he's like, you know, if you cry on the football field, you're done. Like, I'm taking you out. You're not playing. And I think it was a good message for football because football is just a sport that values toughness.
Yeah.
But it's hard not to. And I want my son, if my son plays football, like, he's got to be tough. He's got to take that. You know, it's just football. You know what I mean? It's just what it is.
At the end of the day, you've never seen a weak football player.
Right.
You have to be tough. That's just
you have to be tough.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
And so I don't think my dad was wrong in saying that. I do think that I took that outside of it.
Yeah.
And then years later, I remember I broke my wrist. I was in 7th grade, and I was throwing and I hit somebody's helmet and they landed and broke my wrist back. And I had like one tear come down my eye. And my dad like rushed down to like make sure I was okay, and I had like wiped it out because I didn't want him to see that I was crying. And it's funny that and I've had conversations with him, and you know, I think I took that too far. I misunderstood it because then we got to college, and my senior year we played like this really tough game, and we ended up losing. And I saw my dad, and we made eye contact, and we both immediately started crying.
Oh,
we gave each other a hug because it was just like, I was hurt. I was banged up. It was freezing outside. We battled and we lost. And
That's what made me cry.
You know what I mean? It's just like one of those games where, man, you leave you literally leave your blood on the field. Mm-hmm. And I'm already hurt going into the game. And he knows how hurt I am, even if I'm not necessarily telling other people. I did tell him. And we see each other and we just start crying in each other's arms. So I know that like my dad is not saying don't be tough, or don't be, you know, or you don't have to, it's okay to be vulnerable. But I think that I kind of took that along with other messaging about football, about societal expectations, things like that, and then internalized that and had difficulty expressing any type of sign of weakness to other men.
And realizing that being tough is a tool. Right, that's all it really is, and like you have a lot of tools in your toolbox, and to use toughness when it needs to be used.
That's a great point because I think I benefited a lot in college and in life. You know, going through work. You know, sometimes just saying, "Hey, you know what? This sucks. I got to suck it up, and I got to get through it." That's a great thing. That's a great thing to be able to draw upon. But it's hard to flip that switch off. Yeah, you know, and that's where I think, you know, when we go back to loneliness. And when I said earlier about the struggles that I have, well, I got to take this to the chest, and I got to keep pushing. And you know, I love my family, but I don't want them to worry about me. So, and I know I'm gonna be okay. So I'm just gonna keep this one to the chest. Yeah, and then I'm miserable, you know, for it. So
I'm thinking about just like growing up. Like, do you remember like the first time you saw your dad cry?
Yeah, when my cousin got killed.
Like, I specifically remember hearing my dad cry for the first time. It was hard to explain kind of what she was, but someone very close to him had passed away. And I remember my mom told me, and then she went in the room, was like, I'm going to tell your dad, like, just go to your room. And I remember hearing it. But like before that, or I mean, besides that, like, I don't really necessarily remember seeing my dad cry till, I don't know, maybe, to be honest, I don't know. It's been a while. Like, maybe my senior year of high school, one of the years I came back from college, maybe, you know. But like just saying that, like, you could probably name like that one time. Like, you got to really think about like, when you see the men in your life, and especially we all acknowledged earlier, like how similar we are to our fathers and the connection we have. It's like you don't see men cry. especially the one man you look up to the most, you don't like, what do I look like being over here crying? You know what I mean? Which just kind of leads to everything you just said, like now that's you're building your tools to be tough. And I think I'm a social worker by trade. So just thinking of the psychology of people, and then you think of like childhood adolescence to young adulthood, like the developmental stages and the how uh influenced you could be at that time. Like if you don't see any of that, and then like Ricardo just said, like I'll cry sometimes when we laughed. If at 15, if someone laughed at me, if I brought up crying, I would never mention it again.
Yeah.
Right.
Ever. And so it's just like stuff like that. It's just the stigma and the stereotype around all that stuff. And then what we see in our own lives and the generation of behind us that, that we're learning from, or ahead of us that we learn from, not showing it already. That's where a lot of that stuff I think comes from. Like, even in like your relationship, like how many times have y'all, like we're all in committed relationships that have been multiple years. Like I've only cried in front of my, fiance a couple times, and we're about to sign a lifelong contract. You know what I mean? Like it's just not something that we did on the it wasn't accepted. It wasn't a social norm like it is kind of now, where we talk about therapy and being vulnerable. Like that's really only something that's come about the last 5 to 10 years. So
yeah. And I think what's fascinating is like, even though it's coming out more and more in like society today, like I feel myself wanting to cry more, but I just can't. It's like I don't know how. And I think that's what I want to talk about next on our next episode. Is I think it's important to talk about what it's like having our fathers in our lives. And we don't have anybody here who didn't have their dads, so we're going to speak from that, which is a beautiful thing. We're 3 Black men who all had their dads, right? That's a beautiful thing in itself. So in the next one, I want to talk about that and what we did and didn't see, and what we learned as Black men, as adults. And it's interesting because like, you're about to get married. You are in a long-term relationship and you're getting pressure to get married. I am married going on 10 years and I have 3 kids. So that conversation will be fascinating. And it's something that we haven't talked about. Because again, like I think conversations like this, like we do this in our real life, and it's just great that we can do it here on the podcast so other people can see Black, white, purple, green, it don't matter. Like we're all human at the end of the day. But I love, y'all are making me realize that being Black is a beautiful thing, and it's not no knock to anybody else either. So let's do that on the next one. Let's talk about having our dads, what we did and didn't see, and just kind of explore that and see where it goes. Like I told y'all, like I ain't got no kind of sign off or anything like that yet. So we're gonna just be signing off and going from there.
Everything works out the way it's supposed to. The way it's supposed to. The way it's supposed to. Everything works out.